What is that? Plausible deniability?
Yeah.
And don't be afraid to stop me, guys, if I miss something obvious. Please.
All right, Bob, floor is yours.
Thank you. Welcome, everybody, to the Henrietta Zoning Board of Appeals meeting for January 6th, 2021. It is 7 o'clock. My name is Robert Peckham, and I'm the chairman of the board. Ask people to note the emergency exits, which is just us in here, obviously, over the side, and please silence your cell phones. We'll stand for the pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First, I'd like to do a roll call for all of our members here. Robert Peckham, the chairman, present. Beth Mossworth, vice chair.
Here?
John Migliorini.
Here.
Christian Chamberlain.
Here.
Heather Robinson is absent. Jesse Redlow.
Here.
Timothy Harrington.
Here.
Okay, so the roll call is done. I'd like to ask for a motion to approve the minutes for December.
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve the minutes from our December 2nd, 2020 meeting as presented.
I'll second.
Seconded by John. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Oh, and I had to say aye for in favor. None opposed, and we have Tim's abstaining, correct?
Correct.
And Heather is absent. All right. So I have a little agenda that I'm following from Heather, but I want to throw out one more thing here as a little note here. I would like to offer on the record congratulations to Beth becoming the vice chairman. I would like to welcome Tim Harrington as his first zoning board meeting as a new board member, and thank everybody else for still coming in, which is wonderful. And let's see. Okay. I would like to do the following applications. We're going to start out with 2020-130 and 2020-135 for LFS John Street, requesting a variance for loading docks. Who's going to be here from our?
That'll be me, Mr. Chairman. My name is Jerry Goldman. I have an office at 1900 Bauschen Lawn Place. I'm at Woods Ovia Gilman, and I'm the attorney and agent for LaFroyce Builders. With us here this evening on the Zoom is Rich LaFroyce, who's principal at LaFroyce Builders. Peter Vars and Mike Boguszewski are here from BME Engineering. And we're here to present our application this evening to allow loading docks in the front yard. The first application that we have on 2020-130 is for MS International that's looking to occupy the northern building on Wiregrass Parkway. And we feel very fortunate to bring Wiregrass into this community. They have approximately 35 locations nationally. They did an extensive search in Rochester, and we feel fortunate to have been able to land them here in Henrietta on Wiregrass Parkway. Let me take this moment to introduce, I think you're all familiar with where Wiregrass Parkway is, but when John Street was extended down to Lehigh Station Road, that created an opportunity for there to be industrial development, which was kind of set off from the main roads. And that's a critical element in our application here this evening. Wiregrass Parkway is exclusively an industrial development, an industrial site. And for that reason, it's not part of the Main Street structure that we have in town. As we know, we're here this evening on the variance application because the town code states for industrial districts that loading docks should not be located in the front yard. We should know that historically that we have a lot of properties that are on main roads, on Jefferson, on West Henrietta Road, which are zoned industrial. And it would be, and it's a different circumstance when we're dealing with a road which is kind of set off, like Wiregrass Parkway, and even like the extension of John Street. It's not totally unusual for there to be loading docks in the front yard in some of these industrial sites. We have it on Thruway Park Drive. We even have it here in our particular neighborhood with a couple of sites on John Street. The critical element is to be able to appropriately landscape and buffer these loading docks. We worked hard with town staff and also met with the Conservation Board last night, who complimented us on our planting plan. And as you'll notice on the primary plan, which was sent yesterday, the loading dock areas for both the MS building and the Veritiv building are pretty extensive, and do provide that landscape screening. In addition, we have some berming, which raises it up. So basically, the loading docks are invisible from the street. The perspective drawings that were submitted, and I believe that all the board members received today, clearly depict the fact that the loading docks are not particularly apparent from Wiregrass Parkway. We did have the benefit of listening to your workshop session. In addition to being very entertaining, it was also very informative. And a question that had come up that we just like to address is what would happen if there were to be a user that did not need loading docks at this particular location? Could they be essentially decommissioned? I'd like to point out that Rich Lafroy actually is the owner and developer of the Paychex building, which is further up on John Street. And in fact, he did that and created a very attractive glass front with some conference room areas, which are unique and well designed. So there is the ability with these buildings to be able to essentially decommission the loading docks if there was a desire by any particular tenant to do it. We wouldn't remove them because you never know what is going to happen further down the line. But nonetheless, those areas would be heavily screened. As an area variance, there are standards under law. They were covered by the engineer in the letter of intent. We believe that we meet all of the legal standards for the grant of a variance. We believe that our berming and landscaping does provide the protection which is necessary for the view shed going down Wiregrass Parkway. And we would request your approval of these variance requests this evening. Peter, Mike, Rich, I don't know if you have anything that you want to add before board members ask questions.
This is Peter Vars from BME. I don't believe there is anything more for us to add, Jerry. I think you covered the application completely. Heather, I just didn't know if you brought up on their screens or whatever the 4 view sheds.
I can certainly bring it up. I was waiting for a prompt from you, but I can certainly bring it up.
Sure, let's do that. We'll walk you through the view sheds very quickly, board members, and then we definitely want to open it up to your comments. So we provided you 4 view sheds as you requested back when we were before you in December. The first 2 view sheds are what are coming off of John Street and thus would be eastbound on Wiregrass Parkway, and view sheds 3 and 4 would be if you were traveling from Lehigh Station Road northbound on Wiregrass Parkway. So if you start on view 1, thank you, Heather. This would be, this is taken just as you are rounding the corner. It would be to the right is basically the property line of the business park. So this is as you would be traveling eastbound on West Wiregrass Parkway. And what this shows is 2 things: how the building, the MS International building at what is the southeast corner is their office and showroom space, and that protrudes out from the main warehouse. That in and of itself provides screening to the 2 loading docks that would be in the front of the building, but also the simulation of the plantings and the berming. Just to give you an idea, the berms that we're proposing are are on average about 6 feet tall, 6 feet above the roadway elevation, and 6 to 8 feet above the loading dock elevation. And that bermed area along the right of way and in the green space right directly in front of the loading dock would contain a total of 22 trees and understory shrubs. So this is the view you would see coming eastbound. Heather, if you wouldn't mind going to view 2, please.
What's in here somewhere?
There we go. Thank you. View 2 is basically now you're in front of the MSI building. The blue car you see there is the driveway entrance coming out of MSI onto Wiregrass Parkway. What this view shows, where you see the pine tree renderings and then the couple of deciduous trees, you can see the elevation change in the berm there. That was the purpose of this, was to show that berming as it reflects the MSI. And obviously view 2 will speak also to when we get to the Veritiv site. Heather, could you bring up view 3, please? And this is the last one we need to look at for MSI. View 3 is now you're coming the opposite direction. So you're coming from Lehigh Station Road within the park. Again, the driveway you see in the forefront is the driveway access into MS International, the building. That is not signage for the building, by the way. That is just, we labeled these so you knew what building we were looking at. Again, there is the break in the berming, obviously, for the driveway entrance, but it does show the 2 tiers of screening. In the forefront, you have the screening that would be along the right of way. And then in the back, that is the secondary green space berming area that would provide the direct screening to the loading docks itself. So we think these views illustrate very clearly the effectiveness of the screening. So we just wanted to be sure that we walked you through those views. And Jerry or Rich, unless you have anything else, I think we're ready for any questions.
I guess one comment, this is Rich, one comment I'd make is over the years, and I think everybody's familiar, where we've developed on Calkins Road, our business park there, when we put the berms along Calkins Road. The idea here is to have a similar berm as what we have along Calkins Road. And I think over the years, you can see how that has really kind of shielded the Paychex buildings and the other buildings we have in the park.
That's a good point, Rich.
Very good. I think that concludes our presentation. Peter, thanks for walking through. I wasn't sure. I didn't see computer screens on the board members' desk, so I thought they were going to be working off a hard copy. But with you and Heather, you did a great job of putting it up on the screens. With that, we're available to answer any questions that the board may have.
Thank you. Christian, do you want to start the process, or do you?
Yeah, I want to thank you for answering the question we had during the workshop. That was the main question I could think of, is to make sure that building, if ever in the future, at MSI or the building, or where's it? If they ever leave that location, that the building would be able to be used by another tenant. But that was a good answer to that it could be modified to whatever any future tenant might want as well. I don't have any other questions actually regarding this. Anyone else does?
I just have one comment that I'd like to make. Mr. Lafrois and the rest of the people who work on the project, I just want to commend all of you. I'm very impressed with your thoughtfulness in terms of how you put these documents together. making it very clear for us. But most importantly, the fact that you managed to balance something that makes good economic sense with preserving green space. That's the exact type of development that I love to see in the town. So I commend you for that, and I'd like for that to serve as an example to other developers.
I second that.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions from members of the board? Okay, are there any questions from members of the virtual audience? Heather?
I'm looking 1 second. I've got nothing.
Okay. With that, this application is closed. Oh, no, wait, I said that backwards.
Well, you can close 1:30, but you have 1:35.
You got 135. Oh, what?
You're gonna put them together.
We want them separated.
To be separate motions, or they can be together.
I would think we could do them together unless anybody has a thing. So should we start on 135 as well? Yeah, because you could do them together. We can do them together.
Do them both together.
I know it's out of order. I think, does that cause a problem, Heather?
Nope, not at all.
Okay, so I can.
You want to do 135 as well?
Yeah, I wrote them together, but I could separate them if you'd like.
I'd like them together. I think it's easier.
Yeah, they're different tax accounts though. That's,
Oh.
I didn't know if that made a difference.
It may be cleaner for the building department's records if they were separate motions. I don't know if Kevin has any thoughts on that.
No, as long as they're both mentioned in the, fine.
You know, they're both mentioned at the top. They're both, just that they're the same wording pretty much because they're just the same variance just for different buildings.
They'll be attached to each individual.
They'll be attached to
Yeah,
the
that's, yep, that's
I
fine.
wanted to say the exact same thing twice. Okay, good.
Yep.
Mr. Chairman, with regards to applications number ZBA 2020-130 and 135 for an area variance, I move to approve as follows. Whereas the zoning board has 1, duly advertised and held a public hearing, 2, has considered all relevant information, and 3, has considered the potential benefit to the applicant versus the potential detriment to the neighborhood or community in relation to such variances. Now therefore be it resolved that the Zoning Board of Appeals makes the following findings of fact. The variances will not result in an undesirable change to the character of the neighborhood or a detriment to nearby properties. The property is located in a business park with other buildings with similar uses. The presence of loading docks are not out of character. The project includes a landscape berm to screen the loading areas. The variances cannot be achieved by some other feasible alternative. The proposed tenant has a specific operation which requires loading docks at both ends of the building. The variances requested are substantial. However, the loading docks will be 175 feet from the public right of way. The portion of the front of the building closest to the road does not have the loading docks. The variances will not have a negative effect on physical or environmental conditions. There is no change to any environmental impacts with the loading docks located in the front. The project is consistent with existing development in the area. And the difficulty relating to the variances was self-created. The need for these variances is due to the operations and logistical layout inside the building to maximize efficiency and workflow. And be it further resolved that based upon the above findings, the Zoning Board of Appeals hereby approves the variances as presented.
Second.
Seconded by Jesse. All in favor? Signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The motion carries. The motions carry. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to everybody.
Next on the agenda, we have ZBA 2020-132, Stephen Sweet at 24 Galloway Drive.
All right.
Stephen, if you're there, we'd like you to state your name and address for the record, even though I just said it.
I'm here. My name's Stephen Sweet of 24 Galway Drive.
Thank you, Stephen. Stephen, please give us a little bit of explanation of what you're trying to do with this application and a little understanding of what you're doing.
Basically, I'm trying to build myself a building for a personal gym space. I have one in my basement and there's just not enough room to do the things that I need to do down there. So it's really in a nutshell. I just want to build a building behind my house to house a personal gym space for myself and my wife.
Is there something consistent with an 18 by 18 foot that would require that much gym equipment? I mean, it's a significant size building. It's a pole barn in the description that you have in your,
Yes, that's the type of building I'm looking to build. It's about the space that I have in the basement, but the ceiling height is very low in my basement. It is a little bit bigger than what I have in the basement. It's about the size of a one-car garage, really.
so how tall is the building?
I'm looking to go like between 10 and 12 foot ceiling. It's going to be behind my current garage, so it really isn't going to be visible from the street.
Okay, given the current size of your garage, and it's a one-car garage, correct?
It's like 1.5, yes.
Okay, so the dimensions on the site plan indicate a 16-foot by 22-foot size garage, and you're requesting an 18 by 18 building, approximately 10 to 12 feet high.
Yes.
Would that not be bigger than the current one-car garage that you have?
Square footage wise, no.
Okay, but size as far as it would stick out to one side?
No, it'll fit behind the current garage.
And what alternative method have you considered rather than building this storage shed?
The only other alternative to not having it in my basement is to close off my garage and not be able to use the garage as a garage.
Any consideration on adding to the garage that you have currently?
We looked at that, but that's almost double the cost of the pole barn.
So if you're going to have exercise equipment in this storage building, would you require then electricity and plumbing?
Just electricity, no plumbing.
You have a picture in here of,
It's just a general picture. I don't have drawings. I've talked to several contractors. I haven't signed any contracts to get structural drawings.
you anticipate having a giant garage door like you see here in the picture that you supplied as a sample?
There would be a garage door on one side, a window on 2 walls, and a man door on the 4th wall.
Okay, so the picture that you submitted is not exactly what you're envisioning or what you're going to get because you haven't made any agreements yet, so it's.
No, I'm hesitant to sign a contract. It's going to cost me about $9,000 to sign a contract, and if I can't build a building, I'm out $9,000.
Okay, so we really don't have a good description other than an 18 by 18 building, right?
Right.
So it's kind of hard to envision something if I'm taking away the picture you submitted as not necessarily what's going to be there. So color scheme, design, total heights, somewhere between 10 and 12 feet. So when I'm looking at it in terms of your neighborhood, can you, in the neighbors that surround you, can you tell me if any of those neighbors have a storage shed or accessory building that's of that size?
The only neighbor that has anything of that size is across the street, and it's not a storage building. It's more of like a pavilion space.
Open wall, no walls, or does it?
No walls, just a roof. But that's completely visible from the street, and it's bigger than what I want to build.
Another question while we're looking at this, next to your house, there's indication that you have a small shed.
Yeah, it's like 6 by 8 feet, so a little under 50 square feet.
Tiny. And that's going to stay, I assume, or are you going to?
Yes, that's going to stay.
Do you have anything else behind the house, like a pool or things of that nature?
No.
So the garage door that you want to put on this building, is that just to have open air access, or do you anticipate maybe doing some other type of storage within the facility, or is it all going to
No.
be
Just
just?
open air access, no other storage in that building. That'll be totally gym space.
Did you look at possibly putting it next to the garage where that 8x10 is, or the,
There's not room to put it there with the side property is only about 10 feet.
That's interesting.
because this is showing.
Is the
20
drawing correct that you supplied us? Because it says that there's 22 feet to the side.
But when you come off that shed, that'll put me too close to the property line.
Okay, so you're worried about a setback.
Yep.
There's space,
Building.
I'm asking for clarification on that. There's space to physically put it. However, that is a different variance that you would be asking for if you did that.
Yes.
And that would only give them about 4.
And just a side note, on the other end of Galway, from my property, there's a building that's at least 14 feet and huge and right out on the corner of the street. So I don't know if that has any bearing on my property, but you know, it's there. I look at it every day when I drive down the street. I want to tuck mine behind the house.
Is that a corner lot, sir?
Yes, it is.
So the size of this building, I think that's just where my concerns lie. Can you have a smaller building and still achieve the same result that you're looking for?
I could go a little bit smaller, but to get this, I'm looking for, 300 plus square feet. Once I put a treadmill and a bike and a bunch of gym equipment in there, it takes up a lot of space.
So this would have a concrete floor?
Yes.
And he,
Well, most likely at some point, yes.
I see there's a question mark here about how distant it's gonna be between that building and the back of your garage. I mean, is it gonna be right up to it, or is it gonna be like about,
That would depend on the zoning, how close I can put it to the garage. There's an overhang off the back of the garage. Obviously, there would be eave overhangs on the building, so there would be, we would have to look at how close I can get it to the garage.
you wanna get as close as possible?
Yes.
Is that 4 foot, Kevin?
If the garage has fire separation between the house and the garage, then technically there is not a distance requirement.
so it could be touching.
So, yeah, well, if you, similar to the shed that he has there.
Okay.
If there's, it has to be a minimum of 5 feet away from living space with the accessory structure.
So
Have,
garage wouldn't be.
garage
living
would not
space.
count, correct?
Okay, then I could, as long as the overhangs were good, I could put it right up as close as possible.
Yeah, I mean, definitely want to have space for maintenance.
Yes.
And is that the side that the overhead door is going to be on, facing the garage? Back
No,
up?
the overhead door would face my property line
Okay.
on the same side as the shed.
Okay. Are there any other questions from the board?
I don't believe this was, I've heard an answer to it. Would there be a driveway or a gravel path as indicated in this photo in your shed?
No.
Thank you, Tim.
Mr. Chairman, just one comment I would like to make. As this is a accessory building, it is fine to have the workout space in it. If this was considered a shed definition specifically says for storage. So
Does
this
that
would-
mean that we have the wrong paperwork?
Nope, he's just going, we'd have to come in for an accessory building permit, not a shed permit. And I'll deal with that later if this gets, granted. Just want to be on record that because it's considered an accessory structure, the use is incidental to the principal use, which is the residence. If this was an actual shed permit, the definition of a shed is for storage only. So,
Okay, so it's a clerical thing. though.
there's two different definitions of accessory, if you will, of buildings in our code. But a shed is specifically for storage.
And Kevin, for clarification, is there any other difference in the square footage allowed for an accessory structure versus a shed?
No, that goes by the 1% rule up to 192.
Okay, so in other words, that's no different.
There's no difference in
Okay.
maximum square footage.
Are there any other questions from members of the board? Are there any questions, Heather, from members of the audience?
I am seeing none.
Okay, do we want to take a motion on this right now, or do we want to table it till the end and have a discussion?
I would like a discussion.
Okay,
I agree. I'd like to discuss it.
okay, so Mr. Sweet, we're going to pause this for a few minutes, and at the end of our session for the other people, we're going to have a conversation between the board members to make our decision on this. So please hold with us, okay?
Okay.
What's that?
Should you close that?
Oh, I think I should, sorry. So with that, we're going to close 2020-132. And we're going to take the next application here, which I have listed as 2020-133, American Freight Flex Loom, if I'm saying that right, 1464 Main Street, Buffalo, New York. Who do we have with us today for that?
134 too.
Oh, my apologies. Yes, 133 and 134. Thank you for identifying that. For two additional signs. Heather, do you know if we have anybody actually present with us?
Yes.
Oh, there you
Hello?
go.
Okay, I'm sorry. Yes, Pat Rowell, I'm with Flex Loom Sign in Buffalo. And do you hear me?
We hear you well, thank you. Tell me your
Okay.
name one more time.
Pat Rowell, Rowell. And I'm with Flex Loom Sign, 1464 Main. And, would like to see about getting a variance to add the additional copy below the American Freight lettering, which constitutes the furniture, mattress, and appliance letters. It is their standard logo that they use nationally with that kind of information. Based on the code, we are about 174, 175 square foot. And again, the code allows 200 at this particular location. So, we feel that we're pretty safe there. But again, that's what we're asking for.
Thank you. John, you want to?
Sir, is there any way that we could box the sign off to make it one sign rather than four separate signs?
Well, I would assume that it is a possibility, but this is their corporate identity as such, and this is the way they have built all their signs, including the one or two that we have in our area here. Actually, then if you box it off, it would actually incorporate more square footage. If you look at the copy, American Freight is shorter than furniture, mattress, and appliance. So if you were to box it, you would be increasing that square footage on the building of that open area above furniture and appliance.
Gotcha. Pat, would that exceed 200 feet?
That's a good question. It would, we get 25. It might. I'd have to get my calculator out. But I'm looking at what, 20, about 2 foot high letters, and on American Freight, and boy, yeah, we could very well, it's either at that 25 or above it, which would mean 200. I'm sorry. Are you still there? Oh,
we're thinking.
Is that something to consider doing, or?
Well, again, I'm not I don't have that, prerogative at this point to say what American Freight would agree to, or what they would like. All I can do is present what they have asked us to present to you folks. And, as I say, based on the fact that, we had done the variance a number of months ago over at Hobby Lobby. And, we thought that this would probably be something that would fly with you folks.
Good, thank you. Any other questions from members of the board? Jesse, you look like you're calculating. Should I wait a second?
Yeah, they would be a little bit over the 200. If I read this correctly.
Okay. So any other questions from members of the board?
No.
Heather, are there any questions from members of the audience?
Seeing none.
Thank you very much. With that, I'd like to close this application. Looking for a motion?
Yeah. Mr. Chairman, with regards to application ZBA 2020-133 and 134 for an area variance, I move to approve. Whereas the zoning board has duly advertised and held a public hearing, has considered all relevant information, and has considered the potential benefits to the application versus the potential detriment to the neighborhood or community in relation to such variance. Now therefore be it resolved that the zoning board of appeals makes the following findings of fact. The variance will not result in an undesirable change to the characteristic of the neighborhood, as there are other signs in the plaza that are comparable to this. The variance can be achieved by some other alternative, but this is they are below the total square foot, and this is what the footprint of the actual sign is for their marketing. The variance requested is not substantial. The letters fit into the front of the building fine. The variance will not have a negative effect on the physical or environmental conditions. Other signs in the plaza are comparable to this and are lit. The difficulty related to the variance was self-created, but it lines up fine with the other signs in the plaza. And be it further resolved that based upon the above findings, the zoning board of appeals approves as presented. And be it further resolved that the approval shall be subject to the following conditions. The overall sign will not exceed 180.
Second.
Seconded by Christian. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you very much.
Thank
Have a
you.
good evening. Thank
Bye-bye.
you.
So now we're gonna, I think that was the last one. Am I missing anything? I am not. Let's have a conversation here about the
132.
shed on 132.
Up in the left-hand corner, there should be a lead. It says lead.
View stream. Can it be streamed?
What is everybody's thoughts? And I'll do my best to be quiet for a moment. Quite a few.
Start with Jesse.
Jesse?
I'm leaning a little bit against, because for me, the math doesn't work, which I think, Beth, correct me if I'm wrong, is what you were getting at in the questioning. I mean, I don't see how the garage is actually going to make that not visible from the road. The dimensions don't add up to me. And I think it's out of character with the neighborhood, given when I drive down Galway, they're small lots and there really isn't anybody else who has much like it. The fact that it has a garage door is kind of troubling to me, because you can say it's not going to be used for a vehicle, but that possibility is there with the garage door.
And whether it's
I'm sorry to hit the microphone there. Would it even be possible, now that we know that the garage door would be pointing towards the property line?
what's the question?
That's what he said it was going to be. He was going to be pointing towards his property line. And actually, even though he'd be using it as an accessory structure, if he ever moved, whoever moved into that house would say, hey, I got an 18 by 18 storage shed.
That's one of my concerns as well. Yeah.
With a door big enough for a car.
And a car big enough for a car or whatever. So it is something that, yeah, he would be using it not for storage, but it is possibly storage space for a future owner.
So then this is, I'm not saying I'm in favor or against it while we're talking here, but would a difference for the applicant of making a smaller door that's not car, I'm calling it car worthy, would that change your opinions on this? I'm not saying it should or shouldn't, it's just a question.
I
And
think,
again, this isn't the actual building that he's gonna put up. To me, this looks bigger than 18 by 18.
It is.
It is.
From what I see here.
I'd like to see an actual, I mean, I know that he doesn't want to commit to, having the building built until he gets the permit, but to have like an idea as to, is that going to be, that's what the building's going to look like or exactly, or is it just like a kind of a guesstimation as to what the final product is going to be?
I think his testimony said that it was just to represent some sort of representation, idea of what it would look like. Because he said he wouldn't, his comment was something along the lines of if he contracts with a contractor, he has to pay a certain amount up front, if not all of it, to get those type of drawings, is what he implied. That's what I heard.
Right. However, you can still
Put a rendering
take your Amish builders, whatever.
picture.
This is how tall, this is how long, this is how wide. These are where the placements of my windows are. And without that, I think that we wouldn't do a very good service to our residents without having a more defined structured blueprint that we could say, yes, this would be an accessory structure that the town wouldn't be out because someone saw somebody drive something into it, or I see them with the door open and or it sells in the next 3 years because maybe something changes within their own life. And the person who moves in fixes his car.
But it's considered an accessory building, right, Kevin?
So an accessory building, the use is just that, accessory. This could be used, he could have come in and said, I'm using this for storage. And it's just you could put a vehicle in there. There's nothing that says you can't put a vehicle in an accessory building. It's a permitted use. If he's going to use it as a garage daily, then you would have to have a driveway to it. If he's going to put in, let's say the future owner wants to put in a classic car for winter storage only, bring it back out. There's fine. There's no need for a driveway to it. It's just once you get into multiple uses, over the year, the year, then you have issues with the neighbors, with ruts in the yard and this and that. So again, this could be an accessory building is for storage of vehicle. You could put in a lawnmower. I would consider this an accessory use as a workout space for him and his wife, which again, by definition, it's an accessory use. So, if you have a pool house, same thing.
I mean, if you were to put an office in there, I mean, it's considered an accessory building? too?
Then once you get into, our code defines in-home occupation, which needs to be within the residential structure. So
So it would not qualify for that, for office.
correct.
Also worth noting, in the Google overhead imagery, there is a pool right in that spot.
He indicated in testimony there wasn't a pool.
Right.
Right. He indicates there's no pool there, so.
Okay.
And I think we have to take his word for that. I believe it.
Could be an old picture.
So what is everybody leaning towards while we do this before we reopen the application?
I would like to see a more defined design.
So it's no as presented. Christian?
Yeah, I'd like to see more of a defined, like what his vision, what the final product would look like. Also being 18 by 18, it is a bit out of character with the neighborhood. I know that you said there was another structure down the street. I think I know what he's talking about. I think I've seen it. And it's like a corner lot with a 2-story kind of a barn kind of shed looking thing. But I still say that doesn't set any precedent though, that we should be allowing it though. So I also not knowing exactly, he's going to put it as close to the building behind as possible, but I'd like to see more of how tall it's going to be, what it's going to look like, not just a generic, this is a building kind of like what I have. So I'm leaning towards no.
Okay, Tim?
No, as presented. More information would be beneficial.
So Jesse?
Yeah, I mean, I agree. Like, I'd be open to seeing a drawing that's more accurate. of what's going to go there, just to get a feel for what it is. I lean towards no in general based off the size, because I really don't think it goes in character of the neighborhood
Yeah.
relative to the lot size. But I would be open to seeing new information if the applicant was willing to come back.
I would say that, to me, from my perspectives, it would be pretty well hidden, it seems. But seems to be too many questions about what it would actually look like, because we were given an example that didn't depict the intent. So there's questions there, I think.
So you're still a maybe if we had some more explanation of what it will be. And John?
I'm okay with the size as long as we have another drawing that would actually show what it is.
Okay, so Heather, I think, or anybody here, how do we proceed with that? Is this something that we postpone and request more information? Because if we decline it, then he's out.
No, you could table it for a month and give the applicant the opportunity to come forward with a blueprint or some type of drawing that's done by someone that does that type of stuff.
Okay.
I think if you go to someone and, you know, if you're looking to do something like that, people would probably be willing to provide, you know, example layouts that they can do without significant charges.
I think that's probably a true statement. Thank you, Eric, and everybody. Is there any other questions internally on our discussion before I open this back up so we can talk to him about this?
No.
Okay, I guess we'll open this back up so we can, is that how we do it? Talk to the applicant?
Right.
To
I
table
would
it?
say that to table it and give us a more defined.
Okay. Mr. Sweet, I assume you can hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. I assume you've heard the whole thing that we're talking about, so I'd like to reopen this and give you the understanding of what we're trying to do. For us, we are interested in understanding what's going to be put in there, have a good representation of this, because what you are asking for is quite substantial. And you heard there's definitely a mix on the board on whether that's something that we'll proceed with or not, but I would recommend that we table this per the conversation in our meeting, and request that you come back to us with something that depicts what you're intending to create better. Truly intending to create better, so that we can make an educated decision on what it will look like with appropriate measurements behind the house, placement, things of that nature. And I would suggest that we do that till next month, so that we can rehear the rest of this and understand exactly what it will look like. Do you have any objection to that, or is that something that we?
My only objection to that would be cost on my end to get somebody to do a drawing, but I guess that's really the only way for me to get the building done.
That is, with the way that you're representing it right now, that is true. So I would suggest that we table this to next month. Please come back with that type of information so that we can see this, and also note that we have some reservation about the scale of this in your neighborhood. So it is something that we're paying attention to and interested in seeing if there's other solutions as well.
And just a side note, the building on the other end of the street is the one I was speaking of, is the 2-story building that sits on the corner that doesn't match the house. It sits right out in the open. That you were correct in the one you spoke of.
Some of those things happen. Each one of the applications that come into us are recorded and addressed on their own merit. They are not handled based on other ones that are in the neighborhood, although it does give us some guidance, but they are definitely independent. So it is something that, as this board, we will identify it, but that is what we're looking for the possibility for approval.
Okay. I have a quick question. If I take the garage door out, put something smaller there, like a double sliding door that a car wouldn't fit through, would that change any minds at all?
I think that's a factor, but it sounds to me like the size, from listening to all of our board members, it does sound to me like the size and location of this is something of concern, which is more so than the door, which is reason that I think the representation or rendering of this is even more important to us. We sort of want to understand that that what you're putting in there has no visibility, substantial visibility concerns from the neighborhood and the road, and we just don't fully have a feel of how this is going to look on your property, and that's why we're asking for those changes.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you for your time. Oh, I close it now again. So
Just also a recommendation, if you're talking about size, you might want to perhaps present a design layout of where you're going to place your equipment so that
would
we
help
can
us
have an
understand.
understanding of why it needs to be 18 by 18. If you're gonna give us a schematic of what it may look like inside to have that understanding.
Okay.
Right.
We can do that.
Color of building, placement of windows, and yes, if you change out that garage door, how you would do so.
Right.
Okay.
And if you Google blueprints online, you'll even find some software that will help you do that if you don't want to go to a third party and pay for it.
thank you, Eric. So thank you very much. With that, I think we do I get a motion to close the meet? The meeting's closed. Do I get a motion to approve that?
Bob, can I get a motion to table that, please?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Mr. Chairman, in regards to application ZBA 2021-32, I move that we table this application to provide the owner time to get us more information to make a better and informed decision.
I'll second that.
Seconded by Jesse. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. We will table this till next month. And with that, we will close the meeting at 7:52, I believe it is.
Second.
Second. So, thank you. I just want to do that.
You couldn't wait for that.
I've been dying for it. Thank you, everybody. Please make sure